Now we have seen that what is described as the condition of modernity is basically a European phenomena which can be equated with the material advancement of Europe that culminated in industrial capitalism. At a second level, modernity can be linked with the liberal ideas which accorded great importance to human intellect and human reason in promoting economic and social progress. At the third and very important level, the material advantages gained by Europe through its technological and scientific progress created conditions for the political domination of the other parts of the world by major European powers. This in turn led to it marks the beginning of the process of cultural homogenization of the world, because the European materialism or the materialistic culture of Europe spread to the rest of the world as part and parcel of the rule of European powers. So, political domination, economic exploitation of the other parts of the world, and cultural hegemony can be seen as the three major fallouts of European modernity in relation to the rest of the world. Now, the next thing we have to understand is that World War I acted as a major disruption in the narrative of European progress and development, because it exposed the destructive side of what was called progress and development. It led to a lot of disillusionment because millions of people were exposed to modern warfare, and the weapons of mass destruction created as part and parcel of industrial development led to lot of devastation and destruction. So this destructive side of human progress and human development acted as a negation of all the ideas of modernity. So we can say that in World War I, we have a first major disruption in the process of modernity. Coming to our next subject, which is modernism, the first thing we have to understand is that rather than seeing modernism in continuity with modernity, we have to look at it as something contradictory to modernity. This is the first thing, that modernism, unlike modernity, is a cultural phenomena connected with arts and literature, visual arts and music. So basically what we call modernism in arts is very important for us, because understanding modernism in arts is very important for us because Fredric Jameson builds his idea of postmodernism in relation to modernism in arts, because the major part of Fredric Jameson's essay Postmodernism and Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism comprises a comparison between the art which was produced as a part of modernism and the art which was produced as a part of postmodernism. So there, the idea of postmodernism can be understood in relation to modernism. So at this juncture, it becomes very important for us to understand what is modernism. The first thing I have said is that modernism is an expression or a manifestation of the collective disillusionment with the ideas of human progress and human development, because all the entire edifice of human value systems, the major institutions which stabilized human life, the very idea of humanism, they all were now subject to doubt and interrogation because of the massive destruction caused by World War I. And let me remind you that the underlying factors that led to World War I was the mad scramble for overseas colonies by among major European powers. So, before we come to modernism, let me refer to four very important figures who, in the domain of intellectual thought and philosophy, had begun to question the core principles of humanism: Cartesian humanism, Enlightenment project, or Newtonian science, which, as we have repeatedly said, which accorded the central position to the human beings, considering the human beings to be the most important determining force in the destiny of the world. Now, the ideas of these four figures can be clubbed together as major tendencies towards what we call anti-humanism, and the reflection of the ideas of these four figures in different ways can be found in modernism and arts also. Now, who are they? Number one, Charles Darwin, who lived from 1809 to 1882. Then we have Karl Marx, whose lifespan extends from 1818 to 1883. Then we have Sigmund Freud, 1859 to 1939, and Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900. I have given you the lifespan of these very important figures in the history of thought, just to indicate that these four very important figures lived during the 19th century. So, and modernism and arts is a post-First War phenomenon. And the good thing is that we relate, we teach modernism in arts in the classrooms of literature, and every student can easily link it with such figures as James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, and T.S. Eliot. So, coming back to the four figures, one is Charles Darwin, whose theory of natural selection, which is commonly known as the theory of evolution, and the theory related to the survival of the fittest, leads in a new direction, because it looks at human life not as something transcendental, something distinct, in common humanist and in religious thought. Man's life was considered to have a special purpose, but in the philosophy of Darwin, man is seen as part and parcel of the natural world, with no special or extraordinary characteristics being associated with human life. Secondly, Sigmund Freud, we are all familiar with this name, through his investigations, tried to or attempted to prove the importance of the unconscious mind in determining human motivations and human actions. Third, Karl Marx, if we sum up his ideas in one line, we can say that through his ideas related to dialectical materialism, he tried to show that human consciousness is not autonomous and consciousness is determined by the conditions of life rather than it being the other way around. And Friedrich Nietzsche placed the onus of giving meaning to a life that is essentially absurd and pointless on human beings. So for Friedrich Nietzsche, human existence is inherently pointless, but it becomes meaningful when through the right choices. Now, rather than exerting any direct formative influence on modernism in art, these four figures can be more appropriately connected with the emerging intellectual climate during the late 19th and early 20th century. Although there are major dissimilarities in the key ideas of these four figures, yet it can be said that they all go contrary to the core principles of humanism, where human beings are not only considered to be autonomous, but they are considered to be masters of their destiny. They are considered to be more powerful than any other entity that exists on the face of this earth, under which human beings were given the responsibility of making sense of this world through their intellect and reason. In the ideas of these four philosophers, all these assumptions are overturned. They are subverted, because we can see that in the ideas of Karl Marx, Freud, Darwin, and Nietzsche, man is not seen as an autonomous entity. Rather, man is subject to larger. Man's life is shown to be determined by and is subject to things and phenomena which are shown to be more powerful than man. For instance, in Freud, you have the idea of the unconscious, which remains hidden, but which exercises and exerts a lot of influence on man's actions. Similarly, in Marx, according to Marx, the material conditions of life are more important rather than the autonomy of the individual, because in humanist ideology, man is shown to be a logical and a logically thinking entity who can lead a purposeful life by deciding the right motivations. This is the subject of the traditional Victorian novel also. But these four figures arrived on the scene with very radical and new ideas to explain human life. So I have already clarified that we should be wary of, we should not draw any direct link between these philosophers and what we are going to discuss now under the term modernism in art. Yet they remain important because, as I said earlier, the reflection of their ideas directly or indirectly finds its way in in many works of art. The stream of consciousness technique used by major literary artists like Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, William Faulkner has a clear relationship with the idea that the unconscious is important, more important rather than the conscious mind. Now let us spend some time in discussing modernism in art, because as I said, Fredric Jameson in his essay Postmodernism or Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism builds the idea of postmodern culture, postmodernism in art, in relation to the tendencies in the basic question asked by Jameson. I will be repeating it when we come to the essay. The basic question asked by him is that, is postmodernism an extension of modernism, or is it a rejection and repudiation of modernism? This is one question that Fredric Jameson asks. Secondly, the second question asked by Jameson is that are the developments in art, the changes that take place in art after the advent of postmodernism, are the changes reflective of any social changes? These are the two questions which become the basis of Jameson's essay, Postmodernism. So, let us spend some time on discussing modernism in art. So, modernism in art has been understood to be more or less a literature of disillusionment, because major part of this literature is post World War I literature. Let me first name the figures with which students of literature associate modernism in arts. They are James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, Franz Kafka, Marcel Proust, Stephen Mallarmé, and many others. But as I have already said, that this movement in arts is not limited and restricted to literature only. This movement finds a very important manifestation in other forms of art like cinema, music, painting, and as part of modernism in art, there was a major there was a extended period of experimentation and innovation, and this movement took the form of several new genres in literature, music, cinema, painting. I will name some of them. I have already said that stream of consciousness technique was a new technique which was used as part of modernism in art. After that, you have a technique of writing called surrealism, where events and incidents which are not logically connected are placed together in a dream-like structure. You have cubism in art, in which human beings and objects are shown in geometric forms. Then you have a very large phenomena of modern art and music. In music, a lot of experimentation takes place. So from what I have said, you can make out that what we call modernism in art, stylistic innovation and experimentation is most important, and that is why modernism in art has been called an ideology of style. Such slogans as "Make it new," "Modernism is the movement when art stops making sense," and "Modernism is a desire to make familiar look unfamiliar," are used as descriptive terms for modernism in art. Although a major part of this art, like for example, I can give you the example of T.S. Eliot, gives expression to the collective angst, disillusionment, ennui, and most importantly, alienation felt by human beings after the collapse of value systems, after the collapse of institutions which gave meaning to life in the post-World War I era. But art, the response of art, the cultural transition under modernism in art is such that greater emphasis is placed on stylistic innovation. This is a very important peculiarity of modernism in art, that artists respond to the crisis in social life not by talking as much about the crisis itself than by stylistic innovation. And this has been described as self-reflexivity of art, that art in an important way discards social realism, or uh, or it develops a distance from social realities and forecloses itself in a world of artistic innovation. This is the most important characteristic of modernism in art. Let me list the important characteristics of modernism in art one by one. Number one, during modernism in art, art begins to distance itself from realism. The representative model of art, where art is considered to be a mirror of life which truthfully reflects the realities of life, is more or less given up, and art begins to distance itself, or what we describe as where it begins to veer away from realism and embraces new techniques which are not realistic. Secondly, there is a subversion of the basic concepts of art, such as the the role of art as a mirror to life, the notion that art is something that has a lot of consistency, that approximates life, nature, and which is not too far away from man's common sense way of thinking about life and rationality. So then the next point is that in modernism in arts, art begins to draw attention to itself rather than to the external world. And lastly, art tends to become urban. Now you have seen that during the Victorian period and before that during the Romantic period, art was in one of its dimensions pastoral also. Pastoral elements in Romantic poetry, in Victorian poetry, were or remain very important, or were part of its aesthetics. Now, in modernism in art, this changes. So, the 5 things which I have mentioned: veering away from realism, subversion of basic concepts such as the role of art as a mirror, and then the common sense view of life, rationality, were very close to all artistic creations. When art begins to draw attention to, these are the things which define modernism in art and which become the starting point for Fredric Jameson's discussion of postmodernism, because Fredric Jameson tries to define postmodernism by alluding to and referring back to these ideas in modernism, and then showing us how postmodernism in art and culture differs from these, or remains remains linked to these factors.